Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast made by fans like you, for fans like you. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. I'm your host, Joe Kuzma, and folks, here we go again, right? Right? The Steelers, if this is anything like deja vu, getting hot second half of the season, December, sweeping the Bengals. Oh, ending their season. Feels good, doesn't it? It does. It wasn't always pretty, and I was going absolutely bonkers sitting on my couch, watching this on TV, actually feeling in my gut that thank God I didn't make like a 4.5 hour trip down to Cincinnati, aka Northern Kentucky, as I always call it. That first half of the game, I'm thinking, man, cold. It's miserable. I've been to Paul Brown Stadium. It has no character whatsoever. They put a couple little Bengal tiger stripe things up all around. It is really one of the most boring places I've ever been to in my life. I've been to a lot of college football stadiums, small college stadiums that have high school football stadiums. Let's face it, they have more character than this place. And it really, really describes the Cincinnati Bengals, who fall to 5-8-1 after a 24-20 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who improved to 9-5. And folks, they improved to better than quite a few teams. They have a 5-game winning streak, 4 of those games on the road against losing teams. Remember when Mike Tomlin should have been fired a month and a half ago? Everybody wanted his head. They wanted his job. Get rid of him. Get rid of Todd Haley. Kevin Colbert, just clean house. Get rid of everybody. Now they're 9-5, and they're actually third now. Now that they're in the lead for the AFC North, with a big game coming up, of course, on Christmas Day, which I'm going to ignore for now. But you have the New England Patriots sitting at 12-2 atop the AFC. You have the Oakland Raiders at 11-3, and now the Steelers are third in this conference. Long shot, but potential chance to maybe even claim the 2 seed and a bye. Were you really thinking about this long ago? I told everybody, just hold your horses, hold on. Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger, remember Ben said, follow me? These guys know how to right the ship. They've been here before. I feel, barring any injuries, I'll talk a little bit about that. Always scaring me. A couple guys going down in this game, one in a concussion protocol. I'm going to find out more about that as the week plays out. We're going to see what goes on. Actually, a healthy scratch from this game that surprised me, D'Angelo Williams. And no surprise at all. As Le'Veon Bell says post-game, he thought those guys out there were trying to hurt him. And that's what I said going into this game. Didn't really hit a lot of my predictions, except for I thought this game would be a lot closer than others may have thought. It was ugly at times. But you know what? This is the adversity. I sound like a Tomlinism right there. You ever use that word, Tomlinism? It's like adversity, but it's something that they have to face. It's not easy to win 5 games in a row in the NFL. It's not easy to win 4 of those 5 games on the road. And it's not easy to win those games against a hostile division opponent. One that was without A.J. Green. Not sure how big of an impact he may or may not have had because, face it, they played in the slop in week 2, but he still only had 2 catches on 8 targets. That rain had a little bit to do with it. So you can't always look at the box score, but then again, you can. The Steelers today, what was it? 18 unanswered points? I was going out of my mind during this game. I thought this was really going to be in our control right in the very beginning. Then Stephon Tuitt has a face mask on third down, gives him new life. Then he gets hurt. He's out of the game. Then his replacement, Ricardo Matthews, gets hurt and is out of the game. You're just thinking, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Because you take a look at what the Bengals were doing. They were getting large chunks of yards, throwing the ball downfield, completing a couple little passes, a pass in the flat, like to Jeremy Hill, Burkhead, some of these guys that were out there. We've seen this pattern before. Guys get hurt, team gets shell-shocked. People were already throwing in the towel all over social media. Had to tell my cousin to shut up. Drives me crazy. Says he's the biggest fan of all. I always have to show him his text after the game to show him. He's like Jekyll and Hyde. Then he forgets what he says. I said, bro, there's 2.5 quarters of football left. Relax. They're not out of this yet. Score before half. Score at the beginning of the half. This game could be knotted up. Wasn't working that way, though. A lot of Chris Boswell kicks. Man, how clutch. Sucked for my fantasy team. I'm in my fantasy championship semifinals, actually. Winner goes to the championship. I'm still down. I still got players playing Monday Night Football. So we're going to see how that works out. But I had to face Chris Boswell. And the thing that sucks is, and a lot of people are going to be mad about this, but some of you understand, I know some people cannot take players from teams that they don't like, i.e. the Baltimore Ravens, the next opponent that the Steelers get, and that they have to put away in order to make sure they win this division. And yeah, I had, as far as the kicking battle of Justin Tucker, who had a clutch day. Speaking of which, man, does that team get so lucky. Eagles score. They have 4 seconds left on the clock. Kick a field goal, goes to OT. Don't kick a field goal. They decide to go for 2. They went for all the marbles right there. Just like all the marbles it's going to be for on Christmas Day. It's going to be for everything. But the Eagles fail, and they lose by a point. And Baltimore hangs on, and it's like, oh, geez. Could you at least do us a favor for how bad we lost to the Eagles? It's like, Eagles, at least do us a favor and beat Baltimore too. Saving grace, that game is in Baltimore, so of course, hard to win on the road. But man, I tell you, they get lucky. And of course, Steelers really had a real shot at maybe getting this bye, and the Raiders squeaked out a victory right at the end as well against the Chargers, another divisional game there. So, at least within their division, the AFC West. So I don't know that that'll necessarily happen, but I'm looking at, hey, you know what, guys? If you like playing at home and not on the road, you can at least get one of these at home. All you got to do is beat Baltimore at home Christmas Day. But looking at this game, I was out of my mind. If I would have done this at probably halftime, I mean, I'm just looking at some of this, and I would have been like, okay, everyone, relax, calm down, calm down, calm down. You had a big kick return that was saved by Chris Boswell, by the way. Maybe he gets a game ball just like Randy Bullock, who incidentally, a Cincinnati Bengal now. Did you hear everybody cheering for him? That's how bad Mike Nugent was, that Bullock kicks a field goal and makes it, or kicks an extra point and makes it, and the crowd cheers for the extra point. That's how bad Mike Nugent was this year. So, Chris Boswell lunges, reaches out, and probably saves a touchdown there, and that could be the ball game right there. That's something that probably gets overlooked. I'm going to cover that in the film room midweek. I'm going to have to remember that because, man, what an outstanding play. Aside from the 6 field goals he made that tied a franchise record with Gary Anderson and Jeff Reed. Jeff Reed, there's a character, huh? Remember that? But I wasn't throwing in a terrible towel just yet. Kick return, large chunk of this on a pass interference call, of which that defense held him for 3 downs. And even a video review upheld it. They said the wall of Timmons instead of the steel curtain. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if only they could hold him. It was like inches. I mean, what are you going to do there? QB sneak? Almost. I know, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, but you know what? The defense wasn't bothering me all that bad. I'm like, they'll figure this out. Cincinnati's playing in the script. For those of you who understand game planning and coaching, it's a tale of 2 halves, and it really was on Sunday. So, what was my problem with this game? What was driving me crazy was, pass interference call. Very excellent call. Artie Burns, no doubt. Face mask, Stephon Tuitt, probably trying to reach for a ball, strip sack, not bat it, whatever. Gets face mask instead. How come the referees, when you see these calls, I have no problem. You see these calls. They're calls. I don't want to sound like the guy that complains about officiating. For those of you who've been listening to me for a while, you know that I referee a different sport, albeit, but still a thankless job. I don't like to criticize officials. Been highly critical of NFL officials over the last month or so. This year seems to be the worst. Anytime I'm watching in person in the stadium or on TV, it seems like there's like always these mass huddles, and these guys were a little bit better with that. They had their stuff together a little more organized. But it almost seems like there's these long pauses for these just BS calls. And the one thing, I listen to Pat Kerwin quite a bit. Jim Miller, former Steeler as well, also a former Bear. They usually do the show that I listen to on Sirius XM NFL Radio, usually on my drive home and whatnot. And these guys pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think Pat has said it's these pass interference calls that give up huge chunks of the game, and they're just they flip the field and they're altering the outcomes. And I think people are just getting turned off by it. And after having watched and be invested emotionally into this Steelers and Bengals game, probably as much as the players, all the Cincinnati Trolls on Sunday morning that found my post over on SteelCityUnderground.com about how Mike Mitchell isn't a dirty player, but Vontaze Burfict is, and just everybody. I accidentally snapped at a guy. I think his handle is something like Steeler Steve. Steve, if you're listening, once again I apologize. You got caught in the crossfire. It was friendly fire. He made a pretty solid comment, and I was like, you know what? You didn't read the article, and that's usually what happens. Especially a lot of people read headlines. We all know what it's like. We've shared those things, and unfortunately, they don't see all the things that happen after the ball that Burfict does, and even after this game. F this, F that, denying interview, whatever, to Fox Sports. Guy's like a walking carnival act. Of course, he got penalized. Late hit. Referees were looking for it. Pac-Man Jones couldn't help himself. Same story, different day, right? But I don't know where this was. Someone made a good point. Said Sammy Coates towards the end of the first half. You probably remember. A lot of contact. I think it was with Drake Kirkpatrick. I don't recall. But, Sammy got a lot of work. They were working him in, and that was good. I thought he had a pretty decent game as well. But, man, he got mugged. And they said maybe if he fights for the ball a little more there. It's like, what else does the guy have to do, though? I mean, he's literally getting bear hugged. Looks like I said the other day, like UFC. Somebody's grappling with him. What else is there? And then you see again in the second half. And when you don't get those yards, and then you have to settle for a field goal because of time, possession, plays, downs, it obviously changes what you call as far as your game planning. You can be more aggressive. Maybe you don't have to burn a timeout. I actually thought there was a call where the officials got wrong too, somewhere in that final drive, probably before halftime. And it was, I think, if I'm remembering, if my memory serves me correct, Le'Veon Bell catches the ball, and I just got done watching a fantastic college football game finish. For those of you who probably don't watch small colleges, but Youngstown State wins on a last-second touchdown. My alma mater, they're going to the national championship. That's pretty awesome, but you get used to watching college, and when a guy catches the ball, and if he falls down, he's down. There's no down by contact in the collegiate game, but in professional football, he's not down, and Bell isn't touched, and he gets up, and then he's shoved or hit out of bounds, and I'm thinking to myself, why isn't the clock stopping here? Interesting enough. Maybe I got my stuff wrong. Maybe I saw it wrong. Maybe I'm just having a foggy memory, but it was just another one of those, geez, they had to waste another time out as the clock's still running. I didn't think Bell was down. And it's not something that you're going to challenge, or you wouldn't. Number one, you wouldn't throw a challenge flag for something like that. And of course, within 2 minutes, all controlled upstairs to begin with. So it has to be done by the review. Officials' review cannot be challenged anyway. Making a much bigger deal of that than what it is. The real problem I had was that the Steelers did not get that call with Sammy. And that may have changed a lot of things. But as it stands, the Bengals scored 20 points in that half. And you had, I have some expletives I wouldn't mind sharing. Probably some things you heard from Burfict and a few others post-game. Jeremy Hill, somebody should have warned you. As soon as it happened, I said, that guy just signed his death warrant. You don't touch the terrible towel. You apparently don't know the curse of Myron Cope. Anyone who has ever desecrated the battle flag of Steelers Nation has not lived to tell. They have not had pleasant stories. You do not come out smelling like roses when you do something like that. Ask TJ Hushmanzada, who cleaned his shoes with it one year. Ask, the Redskins punter, whatever, I forget his name. It's a punter. I love my special teamers. Don't get me wrong. Actually, it was his mom burnt a terrible towel or something. You saw what happened to the Redskins. And now we see what happened to the Bengals. They got one field goal after that, and that was it. Shut down completely. So, the thing was, you get into this half, and the Steelers chop block, somebody more expert at the rules. I didn't think Bell went that low. Thought Bell was at the thigh pads. That was just a quick replay off TV from memory. I'll try and look at that again. It just sucks, though, the Steelers shooting themselves in their own foot. They still have to get that all together with the penalties. They did a much better job in the second half at times. As the game went on, I should say, they got better with it. But, man, that chop block, that hurt. That really hurt. And I get it. If you're watching it in real time, like I said, I don't want to make it sound like I'm whining about the referees, even though I am. I understand it's a thankless job. I understand it's bang, bang. You're watching it in real time. The speed of this game is so fast, especially at the professional level. I understand what they thought or may have seen there. But what I don't understand is how Antonio Brown, double coverage, the one they said nearly gets picked. Who's watching what there? His head, he goes from going up for a ball, and his head gets pulled completely down and facing towards the ground and towards the defender's waist, the Cincinnati Bengals defender's waist. I can't remember who it was, if it was Williams, the safety, but man, his head got jerked around. And I thought the same thing as soon as instantly, and I apologized for it. I retracted it when I said it on Twitter during the game. Lawrence Timmons getting tackled after the interception. What a big clutch play. Man, has Timmons been so good this year. Vince Williams says on Twitter afterwards, he says, man, this guy's trying to make... Law Dog's trying to make sure I don't ever get to play. That's a good thing, maybe. Law Dog being Lawrence Timmons, of course. But, man, if you're looking at something in real time and you could tell that you think it's a chop block, okay, I see that. But how do you not know that some of these aren't a face mask? You got the one with Tuitt, and that one's kind of easy. It's right in front of, I think it's in front of the umpire. I think that's who's positioned there. And then if you're looking at this Antonio Brown play, I don't know how you missed that. And then later on, Sammy Coates, another Sammy Coates play, another one that's in the end zone. So this is the same type of deal. There's two plays in the end zone. You get one called against you with Artie Burns, and I think it was Brandon LaFell. And then you have two that aren't called. And I could get. And somebody said, oh, you're complaining about the officials, and it's like, fool me once. Whatever the cliche is, I don't remember. I don't care at this point. I'm still fired up about this if you can't tell. But fool me twice. No, there is no fool me twice. If you miss one, I get it. You miss calls. You're human. It happens. You've got two defenders there, Antonio Brown. A lot of stuff going on. You're watching the ball, almost picked off. A lot of things happening. Checking feet, making sure they're in bounds. Tough game, high-pressure situation, rivalry. I get it. I understand it. But 2, very tough to forgive. Very tough to forgive. So, irony is the Steelers, for as much as they were penalized, Cincinnati more than made up for it later in this game. They actually end up getting penalized more times. Not for more yards, but 8 penalties to 7. The Steelers for 104 and Cincinnati for 86. And a large chunk of that 104, of course, being that Artie Burns play. Ross Cockrell makes a good play. Secondary overall, man, Mike Mitchell, unfortunately on that one, that pick would not have counted anyways, as they said on TV. Thank you, Dan Fouts, for being Captain Obvious. But, I respect Dan Fouts, but some of the things, it's like, they were at least acknowledging at one point that some things were going on and getting missed. It was like, maybe if you let him play, but only if you let him play both ways. So, like these penalties, I get so sick and tired of mentioning injuries. David DeCastro leaves this game for a short spell. Tuitt never did come back, but they did mention in post-game he wasn't on crutches. He was sitting there on the bench. It's not like they took him to a hospital or anything else. Maybe an MRI for him. We'll see what's going on. Not exactly sure with Ricardo Matthews. I got tweeted that he was ruled out, but then somebody said he ended up coming back in the game. I don't know. Somebody may have gotten that story wrong. So we're going to see what's going on with him. DeCastro did return, if I didn't mention that. Ladarius Green's the one that really bothers me. He got cracked pretty hard. And, of course, that was like helmet to helmet. He kind of lowers his helmet, and he's bracing for impact. This is a guy that was heavily criticized in the offseason, had concussion history with the San Diego Chargers, and could easily miss the rest of the regular season in concussion protocol based on my memory of having him, my cursory knowledge of him as a player with the Chargers over the last year or so when on my various fantasy football teams. So, best of luck. I don't know if that's well wishes, maybe better words there, not best of luck. That I hope none of these guys, anything too serious. This was the thing that worried me the most, is getting out of these games healthy without any major injuries. But let's talk about the man of the hour. Chris Boswell. Even cleaning it up, special teams, getting those kicks going a little bit deeper. I think they got these sky kicks going. There was finally, there was one I thought there was a pretty good hold on too. I'm still complaining about officiating. But even if you want to take that out of the equation, the tackle that he made, the 6 field goals that he made, and then finally cleaning that up as well in the return game, in the kickoff game, and getting some good field position. And, of course, Cincinnati got penalized there and got pinned even deeper on one of those. I'm like, finally, the field position battle is ours. Ironically, Jordan Berry only punts once today. Only once the entire game. Very, very odd. Let's talk about another guy that gets a game ball just for scoring what is the go-ahead winning touchdown. The go-ahead points, Eli Rogers. Finally got somebody who stepped up and had a big game. So, Eli Rogers, hats off to you. 6 targets, caught 5 of those for 75 yards. Few clutch plays, the touchdown being the most clutch. Speaking of, Ladarius Green had 5 for 72. Kind of quiet. They both had 28-yard longs. Antonio Brown had a 32-yard long, but only 5 catches for 58 yards. Bell actually quietly, too, caught 5 balls for 38. Kobe Hamilton, all he does is move the chains. So Ben was 21-36, 286 and a touchdown. That was good for a 93.1 quarterback rating. The defense held Andy Dalton to a 60.3 rating. He had the 1 pick, no touchdown passes. He was pretty hot with Brandon LaFell early on, and they shut that down. Steelers defense only gets the 1 sack with Shazier. They were all over Dalton. Dalton pretty mobile, getting out of the way, avoiding danger a few times. They got the pressure on him, and that's what counted. I still thought it was there, even though they didn't necessarily bring him down behind the line. Cool with it. Could have gotten more, but the Bengals had been improving in that department after Dalton had been the red-headed, what do you want to call it, sack of potatoes that's just getting sack. That's where I'm thinking of right now. My brain is fried, folks. Regardless, though, I thought the Steelers did fantastic this second half. The Bengals only had the ball for about 3 minutes in the fourth quarter. And the Steelers, they go ahead. They go ahead pretty late. There's still quite a bit of time left here. And, of course, now I'm not seeing it. Okay, 7:29 left when they go up 24-20 in the fourth quarter. And they burn off over 5 minutes of time and end up kneeling it down. And they went for the jugular here, too. With the Antonio Brown play, of course, there was a flag there. Risky, but I also like it. I know it's a little crazy, but they go up 31-20. Definitely make a statement there. Almost unexpected, almost a very similar play to the fake spike against the Dallas Cowboys, even though it wasn't a fake spike here. So totally cool with it, cool with the aggression. Me and Eric Herman, my associate editor over at Steel City Underground. Eric, shout out to you. Disagreed about going for 2. If you get to 2 points there, that's 2 field goals. Got to force Cincinnati to drive for a touchdown. Understand it, because 5 points is kind of worthless. But then at the same point, he had mentioned that, let's say Cincinnati did score, and then it was some combination of math, because he's a math whiz. That brain, he's good with the statistics too. Spreadsheets, statistics, tables. That's your guy right there. Charts, whatever you need that's mathematics. Go see Eric. But, yeah, Eric had mentioned then a field goal was pretty worthless to the Steelers had it went the other way, but it didn't go that way. The defense give up no points, force a turnover in the second half. Steelers end up controlling time of possession in this game, about 32.5 minutes to 27.5 minutes. And the Cincinnati Bengals, they didn't have a very, very, very good second half whatsoever. Punt, interception, punt, punt. Literally. They had a 4 minute, 15-second possession. As their first one in the second half. And then 2 minutes, 4 seconds. And that about ended the third quarter. The fourth quarter, they had it for 1 minute and 34 seconds and 1 minute and 36 seconds. So 3 minutes, 10 seconds total possession in the fourth quarter. Folks, it may have looked like an ugly grind of a game with a lot of field goals. Wasn't a lot of excitement with touchdowns or sacks or just one pick. But the Steelers protected the ball on offense. Didn't turn the ball over. Penalties may have been some mistakes, but no real incredible fatal errors. You get lucky here or there. A call one way or the other. Maybe they kicked the door down this game, but they went on the road against a heated division rival. I think that is very important and should not be overlooked. And I thought the defense still did a pretty solid job in this one. 18 unanswered points by the Steelers. And you know what? I think still leaving some points out there on the field. Drop passes, penalties. But there's nothing like the Bengals defense committing penalties on 4 straight plays before that Eli Rogers touchdown. Like I said, 7 minutes, 29 seconds, 7.5 minutes left in the game. And the Bengals still completely shut down at home. Steelers now 9-5, control their own destiny. Are they going to run the North? We shall find out soon. But until next time, enjoy this holiday season. Don't get too crazy with all your shopping. And try to keep your sanity as you watch these games. We've got one on Christmas. 2 left, both at home. Baltimore Ravens, Cleveland Browns. Think the Steelers could win out, control their own destiny, enter the postseason, maybe a favorite to win it all. Until next time, be safe, be good, and I will catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.